What is going on, everybody? John Ramdeen and Robin Black with you. Normally we talk about the UFC, but we got to talk about the #2 promotion in the world, Bellator. Is it the #2 promotion in the world? I'm sure One Championship would call themselves the #2 promotion in the world.
I think One Championship based on reach is #2.
Yeah.
I think the international world, I mean, we love Bellator. We love this this card. And I'm going to New York, man. I'm going to go to New York. After Michael Chandler retains his title, I'm taking him out. We're going on one of those horse carriage things. Mark's going to shoot us on a horse carriage. Then we're going to go train or throw a frisbee around or drink coffee in the park.
Super cool.
Mike's the man. We love Bellator and we love great fights. But I do think One Championship globally may be bigger. And Fight Nights Global and ACB in Russia are growing super fast.
And KSW
is doing stadiums. So it is a challenge for sure if you're Bellator. But there's also some good news. We're going to talk about the fight, by the way, in just a second. But there's some good news. There's a little window if Bellator were to really focus on their digital. Because we're in a time of change. And when you're in times of change and you get on the front end of that change, you can work your way in and suddenly be like, holy shit, Bellator's huge. Unfortunately, if you go to Bellator's YouTube page, they're not investing a lot of effort there. That's a place where they can crack. We're in a time where you're seeing people go from, something small to something big in 6 months by doing it right with the right strategy. They could do it.
And they can create interest because they have the talent. You look at this fight that's going down in England, a 170-pound battle between Paul Daly from England taking on former UFC welterweight title challenger Rory MacDonald. President Scott Coker said the winner of this fight gets to take on Douglas Lima for the welterweight championship of the world. A tremendous battle. Rory MacDonald's debut for the Bellator organization since he left the world's #1 promotion, the UFC. Clearly Bellator's paying him a chunk of change. But what we've learned, a lot of people say, oh, Bellator, they're not as good as the UFC. Their fighters aren't as talented as the fighters from the UFC. Well, I think we should ask Ben Henderson that.
Yeah.
The former lightweight champion. Yeah. What happened when he went over to Bellator? There are no easy fights, it seems.
Come on, man. Yeah, like, these guys are doing a pay-per-view in New York City, and they still have fights like this. They don't have to even stack one card anymore. Rory versus Daly is pretty spectacular. These fights now have become so much more complicated with so many more layers of subtlety, and everything is linked up. How you apply concept X affects your ability to do A, B, and C. It's all tied together, and it's very confusing and complicated. And however deep you want to get into looking at the truth of a matchup like this, you can go as deep as you want to go, or you can go shallow. Right? The shallow is Rory puts Paul Daly on his back. Assignment 1. Let's show that driving into somebody's hips and going old school George St. Pierre will work. And let's do that. And let's focus on that if you're Rory, and really show people that people have started to forget about what a beautiful blast takedown can look like, and how talented he is as far as putting you on your back and beating him up. He hung with Damian Maia on the ground. You know what I mean?
The two guys touch gloves. They're both standing. Paul Daly, I'm sure in his mind, believes nobody on the planet wants to stand and exchange gloves with me. They just do not want to do that, because it's going to end up, except Nick Diaz, it's going to end up with them flat on the ground, them unconscious, or I beat their legs senseless until I can knock them out. He knows that. So the idea is eventually most of my opponents at some point are going to try to wrestle me. So the two fighters touch gloves. What is Rory's strategy to make sure he disguises all those takedown attempts?
Well, if I'm Rory, so let's look at another thing Rory is very good at. As are everybody at TriStar. Not everybody. We can't make it that general. But a lot of them. They work on it. We catch kicks and take guys down. If I'm Paul Daly, maybe I think I can be the exception because of how
I can throw those fast.
How fast my kicks are and how skillful I am. But if I'm wrong, Rory will take me down. So if I'm Paul Daly, am I going to throw kicks and test that theory? If I'm Rory, I'm ready to take him down off kicks. And I'm ready because it's not just, as we know, not long ago, people would be like, you can't kick a wrestler. Of course you can kick a wrestler. But there is a risk involved. How do we minimize that risk? Why is there risk? If I kick him and he catches it, he takes me down. So how do I minimize that risk? I make a kick that is extremely hard to get caught, and I extract them in ways. McGregor started slicing up Mendez's body, and Mendez would catch some, and he had the old school Thai extraction, where, hey, you got my foot, that doesn't mean it's over. Oh, you don't have my foot anymore. So Paul Daley will work on that. But if I'm Rory, I want to be better, I'll test that theory. Oh, you think you can when I catch you, you can get out? Well, I'll develop that skill. So I'm readying that as part of my training to prepare for Paul Daley, and I'm kicking the shit out of his legs. I am kicking the shit out of Paul Daley's legs because I don't believe he's going to catch mine, and I don't believe there's any risk. And I was underneath Damian Maia. I'm not afraid to be underneath this guy. So I believe I'm going to kick like crazy from outside. You try it. You try to kick with me. I believe that I'll take you down off that. That game is something that'll force Paul Daley to come forward, and then we take him down.
Paul Daley, conversely, knows that, okay, nobody wants to stand with me. How is he gonna put me down? Well, he might try to catch my kicks, because we've seen that in the past.
Yeah.
If he does, well, guess what? I've been working for years and years and years. You might take me down, but I promise you're not holding me down, because he's explosive. He knows how to move his body. And again, maybe Rory is one of these guys. He's been able to hang with some of the best jiu-jitsu guys in mixed martial arts competition and jiu-jitsu competition. So that's your primary goal, is make sure you're succeeding in that realm.
I don't... As we know and discuss often, there are very few certainties, because we don't know who they are on the night, and we don't know. Right. We haven't seen Paul Daley be tested in certain areas, but we know he's been improving certain areas. So we don't always know the answers. But if there's anything I'm certain of in this one, it's that if Rory gets on top, he'll be on top until the fight is over or the round is over. That I'm pretty certain about. Whatever games Paul Daley has built about making space and heisting his hips, Rory knows those games on a level that he doesn't. And Rory, we talked about it. You can go back and see our analysis of Teixeira and Gustafsson. That crushing top game. Can you imagine having Rory MacDonald on top of you? Can you imagine what that priority 1 is, crush you into the ground. Then priority 2 is hurt you. And priority 3 is, while I'm hurting you, I don't let you have any space, so I can go back to priority 1 of crushing you.
Do you think we're going to see, we saw him try to roll for takedowns against Stephen Thompson. Do you believe that that's something we're going to see in this fight with Paul Daley? Let's show him stuff he hasn't seen before, that he's never actually had to deal with in a live scenario.
I hope not. I really didn't like
a couple of those.
They're Hail Marys.
Sure.
And Hail Marys.
But they're skill Hail Marys.
Yeah.
It's like,
but
you
Hail
ask
Marys,
Ryan Hall, and Ryan Hall's, he's landing those on people.
Yeah.
If the skill is there, the skill is there.
It didn't work in that last fight, and we suffered a broken, shattered nose for the second time.
But what would have... I feel that night, between Rory MacDonald and Stephen Thompson, it didn't matter what he did. He just wasn't going to win. Stephen Thompson had the game plan. He had the answers to everything Rory did in that fight.
We can run that fight over again in a weird kind of way with Paul Daley, because maybe if there was... it just didn't work out the way they wanted to execute. We could have kicked Steve's legs from out there until he came forward. And if he didn't come forward...
with a guy that has that dexterity, that's able to get those reads?
Kicking down low on Steven's legs. Okay, we didn't do a lot of that, and it didn't quite work. We went down a couple of rounds, and then we had to push forward. And once we start pushing forward, Steven's... he has a lifetime of drawing back and intercepting you, as does Paul Daley. We don't want to push forward against Paul Daley. We want some of those same things. We want to kick his legs until he pushes forward. If he pushes forward, that'll give us a chance to take him down. If I'm Paul Daley, I know what the game is. This kid wants to take me down. He's probably going to kick my legs, but the best Thai kickboxers in the world have kicked my legs. I'll look for my chance to land my big punch on him. That nose of his, I want to see how it is now. I want to see if he still wants to fight, if he's still this visceral, primal kid or not. I want to test that.
Are you looking at that fight with Robbie Lawler? Because Paul Daley has made some comments saying that Rory bailed. Now, I don't personally think that. I think Rory's body just shut down from Robbie Lawler punching him in the fucking face over and over again, shattering his nose, and eventually his body just said, okay, we can't handle this anymore. If you're Paul Daley, are you looking at that and it's like, you know what? I need to inflict that type of damage in order to win this fight?
Well, Paul can say what he wants. we're all humans. Paul's never been pushed to that level. Did Rory quit? Did he make a choice that I can't fight anymore? Or did his body make it for him? Or does he even know? Or is there even a difference? Your brain is you. Your body is you. It's all part of you. And if you abuse...
Sometimes when you get hurt, you can't even defend yourself. Your body shuts. Look at the fight with Diego. Yeah. Diego's and Iaquinta. Diego couldn't even put his hands up to defend himself. So that wasn't his choice.
No, it wasn't. And Paul's never been pushed to that limit. In fact, that round with Nick Diaz. What the fuck was Nick Diaz thinking? Like, that round alone tells you what Nick Diaz can be. Like, it's so amazing. Hey, man, I mean, in those 5 minutes, he took that and he was done, you know? Paul can use those. He's a veteran of all veterans. Yeah. He has been around. He's been through it all. He's a prize fighter, and he's a damn good one. And he knows what it all is. He also knows that if I can use some of these words to sell a few tickets, or even better, I can't count on it, but maybe it'll undermine Rory in some way that might benefit me. Great. I'll use words as a tool. But he knows what's up. He's been around. He knows. Rory was in a genius of a fight. The truth is, you want to look back, you don't have to look very hard to find in either round 4 or round 5 against Thompson, when the nose shatters again, you see his body start to close up and him about to fall down, like exactly the same scenario as Lawler, and instead he picks himself back up and he overrides it. If anything, it made him better. He made him capable of going even deeper. It did. And then he finished that fight still coming in behind whatever screen he needed to come in behind to attack Stephen Thompson with a broken nose. So the truth is, in what we've seen, Rory still has to go win this fight. He has to go fight this fight. He has to go see who he is. But if you know much about Rory MacDonald, you know he is this thing. This is real. And that's why the fight's so killer.
A sensational battle at 170 pounds. Rory MacDonald makes his Bellator debut as he takes on Paul Daly. The winner of this fight will get a crack at the 170-pound championship.